Namaste, everyone. So let's begin our session on Truth Eternal, chapter number 3. So, as usual, let's offer our prayer as well. Bas kijiye, that's all. Last, we understood the aspect of where sleep becomes an equalizer. Susupti, in deep sleep state, king, the beggar, the businessman, housewife, they are all same. I think also similar thing happens when we are at the highest pitch of consciousness. There too, the consciousness of Babuji will not be different from consciousness of Lalaji when they are both at the highest level. Now, all these writings and all that analysis and logic, it comes to play only in between. And that's where all the differences are. So we continue from page 45. In the body, the attention of the body minded person is on the body, the organs of the body, and so on. In the soul, the attention of the spiritual man is on the spirit only. But there is not the threefold condition of the seer, the seen, and the sight. Whatever is there, it is one and only one, the knowledge of which also is not there. Why? But Lalaji says otherwise, meaning if knowledge was also present about your inner state while you were identified with the spirit, with your soul, then the defect of duality would creep in. Once you become aware, this awareness creates these dualities that I am ignorant, or I am knowledgeable, or I am experiencing this, or I am seeing this. Then, when I has been identified as the seer, then naturally there will be seen things you're observing, things you're experiencing, and the experience itself. Somewhere along, Lalaji talks about the lover, the beloved, and love. Likewise, you can also classify the trinity of this knowledge, knowing, right? A knower and the object of knowledge. So here too, Lalaji talks about that once the consciousness is settled on the center itself, the spirit, the soul, the causal body, there is absolute balance. And this in our Shastras is also known, that one who is settled on the center itself, one who is settled on the self, Swa, the self. Settling on Swa is also known as Swasthya, one who is settled, Asthya, on Swa is Swasthya. So, physically, you might be tired, you might be ill. Yet, just because you are so much identified with the soul, this peripheral thing, the bodily thing, organs, senses, your intellect, your thinking, your ahankar, all this simply disappears. Rather, I'm not able to use the right word, but that's the only way you can say, or you can see you have transcended all these things because you are now so identified with the center. So, the healthiest person, health according to our Indian tradition, is not just in the physical body, but you are healthy when everything else is settled. Your mind, your physical body, your consciousness, everything, they are all geared towards the soul. There is everything in the body: the root, trunk, branches, leaves, flowers, fruit, etc. And inside the fruit, seeds lie hidden beneath many coverings. There is only the seed in the soul, and outside this seed are the root, trunk, branches, leaves, and flowers, which lie in a covered and contracted state at the top. The body always finds its expression and growth from the soul and vice versa. In the same way as the process of production of the seed from the tree and vice versa goes on continuously. So here Lalaji Maharaj, by giving the example of a tree and its branches and the leaves and the fruits and flowers and seeds, etc., he compares this life, the tree, life of a tree, with our life. Just as seed gives rise to a beautiful tree, new life emerges. How? We don't know how, but once we put the seed under the ground, the warmth, the humidity helps it to germinate. It shatters its own coverings. If these coverings are not shattered, then what happens? Seed will never sprout. So it is imperative that coverings of ignorance must be removed if the soul has to germinate and expand its, you know, levels of manifestation to its highest. Otherwise, it's like a seed that is put under a rock. That seed will never be able to grow. Seed that is not given water will also not grow. Our aspirations, our desires, our ambitions to merge in the ultimate, they're also like that. It's also the so called unexpressed desire of the seed to become the tree, to become complete. Our aspirations also, unless they are nourished with extreme devotion. Devotion will also do, but extreme devotion will make sure that it happens. And according to Babaji Maharaj, this extreme devotion results in that sheer restlessness. In traditional way, we call it bhakti. The ignorant man counts the leaves, flowers, etc., and eats, or may not even eat the fruit. Whereas the wise man is interested in eating the fruit only without paying any attention to those details. The ignorant man is literate and learned, and if by chance he comes across the Bhagavad Gita, he begins to examine and tries to find who is the author of Gita and so on. Really speaking, there are three conditions of the mind: stupefied condition, fickle condition, and number three, ignorant condition. These are due to three coverings, which are three bodies. First, there is the physical body with its senses and organs, which is outwardly motionless and dark. Second is the soul is another body, which is called the causal body. This is full of light, but there is no movement in it also. This is the root cause of ignorance. The third body is the subtle body or the mind, which lies between these two. There is movement in it, which by its own movement gives movement to the stupefied state and ignorance. So, this is very simple to understand since we have gone through this aspect that there is a gross body, subtle body, and causal body. Gross body we all know. Causal body we are familiar, we have heard about it, we are yet to consciously experience it. And that is the purpose of entire spiritual practice. And that cannot happen unless and until we have mastered and refined our subtle bodies. The conditions are all related to those three bodies: stupefied condition, ignorant condition, and fickle. Absolute ignorance is in the soul, stupefied is in the grosser body, and fickle because mind keeps changing, our ego keeps changing, our demands at a personal level keeps changing, how we intellectually dissect things and our needs keep on changing. That's why it is our mind remains fickle, ever changing. There is steady. That's why Lalaji says that there is some level of steadiness even in a stone. Stone doesn't demand. Likewise, soul doesn't demand much either. It is at its highest peak and self-sufficient. So these are very interesting arguments when we go a little bit deeper into it. I have also understood one aspect from all these readings that any time we move away from the center, move away from the soul, and we begin to identify ourselves, we identify something even beyond our body to outer objects or outer persons. When we identify ourselves with parent, oh, I am son of so and so, or I am a disciple of so and so, or I am a citizen of so and so country. So this is also a kind of identification. See? Pride, arrogance of such an identification creates a lot of complexities. Though we say, oh, I'm a Deshbhakta and all that, but spiritually speaking, it is uncalled for. That does not mean that you need not be loyal to your country or community or to your family, but this obsession is not worth it. Because as soon as you identify yourself with a specific, you're excluding the other, and that means you're excluding everything else also, which is also part of godliness. So we cannot afford to be non-universal in our approach and identification. Moving away from our natural habitat, from our ever approaching attention towards the self, towards the innermost being, is going towards your own. It's not a selfish act, it's going to be a more universal. In fact, when we begin to identify ourselves with our soul, the reason is very simple. The soul that I experience is within me. And because of this awareness of the nature of my own soul, I start appreciating the nature of others' soul. And when I see both are same, then there is no differentiation. There is only appreciation and authentic brotherhood, not artificial. So, moving away from your zone or moving away from your boundaries. For example, if I move or stray away from the borders at Rajasthan and enter into Pakistan, they might say that I am terrorist perhaps. When you cross your sima, when you cross your borders, it is called akraman, aggression. Similar thing happens when we move away from our own field where consciousness should have been and go outward. It is akraman. Its exact opposite is pratyahar or pratikraman, going inward, going towards your own sima or your own borders or your own Lakshman Rekha, as they call it. Crossing these Lakshman Rekhas are not protective. Going out, either you're endangering yourself or endangering others. So, akraman only means this, it's violence to go away from yourself. Pratikraman or pratyahara is being compassionate towards yourself, where you want to be kind to yourself, where you want to understand yourself better. So, this application of how we move towards the center and how we move away from the center is a far reaching application. And based on this, I think Babuji Maharaj must have created those 23 circles to make us understand how our true journey begins from outward going inward. But the work begins from inward and expands outward. That is the nature of the work, that is Master's work. Our attention will move only from outward to inward, from the outermost circle, and we move inward. It is like you are gliding on a beam of love inward. Okay, thank you all. So, see you all next Sunday.